What can make a man last longer in bed? 90 time I was hooking up with this guy on antidepressants, and he could go all night. He just couldn't come. He didn't tell me the first time about the meds, and I was very self-conscious. As a man who recently took antidepressants and going for 45 minutes, I hated it. Never being on antidepressants and not being told the side effects by my DR made pointless to me as someone with a high drive. It was eliminated overnight. I switched to working out and eliminated Satan himself out of my life. Minddef wasn't on antidepressants. He could have benefited from them but drank like a fish. Does that delay it to the point it never happens? Or his dick was into me but not his brain? Cause yeah, self-conscious. Alcohol is a depressant. If you're on antidepressants, you're already depressed. Depression doesn't always mean poor pitiful me. Suicidal thoughts, it could be also quite basic neurological. I've got depression and my tolerance for pain is literally unhealthy. Like I can run, exercise way beyond my fitness level, and then the next day or two, the lactic acid buildup in my muscles is debilitating. Depression can literally relate to signals from your body to your brain and have no emotional, psychological connection. Usually alcohol's main problem with men is whiskey dick, where regular guys not used to depressed state can't even get blood flow down there. Meanwhile, for depressed guys, almost their natural depressed state is how erections feel normal to them to reach arousal. I accidentally gave an ex in college an inferiority complex because of that. I had just started taking them when we met, so those side effects started hitting right around the time we first started hooking up. When she couldn't get me off with her mouth, she became convinced that she was terrible at giving head. I quickly explained why, but we were young, and she was pretty inexperienced, so the damage to her ego was done. She became convinced that she was terrible at it, and if she was just better, we wouldn't have this issue. No matter how many times I told her how amazing it felt. I genuinely thought I forgot how to get a guy off, and even after he told me, still thought if I just worked harder that I could do it. Eventually, he told me that, look, yeah, it sucks that I can't come easily anymore, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. It's still a lot of fun. And he seemed genuine, so I got over it. I've had this with literally every new partner I've ever been with. They always double down and think the solution is just to work harder. It can get pretty uncomfortable on our end, feeling like a project or like we're broken. Trouble on our end, feeling like a project or like we're broken. I want to have mutual intimate encounters, not a mutual intimate encounter followed by 90 minutes of somebody furiously trying to force my non-compliant PP to bust just to prove something to themselves. The pressure of having somebody working on it all but guarantees it won't happen too. I've been with otherwise completely rational and intelligent women who don't listen to the disclosure, believe they have the magic power to get it done, and then get devastated and cry when they can't. Am I ugly? Are you not attracted to me? What's the problem? My partner has always been able to go for ages. He's been taking antidepressants for 3 years now, and he's still able to go for quite a while, but not as long as he used to. So it's the opposite for him. I mean, the first time we ever slept together, we did it 3 times in one night, and each time, he lasted longer. We started at like 9 p.m. and finished at 6 am lol. At least he could get it up. I couldn't stay hard at all. It was like as soon as I got to full mast, all the desire for just vanished. I forced myself to keep going once. It was like one of those old movies where the hero fights a deadly snake, but it's clearly just floppy plush toy, and it's obvious the thing is lifeless. It was so hard to keep my mind on the task at hand. 6 hours later, I finally came, and it was not worth it. Got all the build up, and then nothing, and I ejaculated with all the force of a blocked icing piper. Suffice to say, those pills went in the bin sharpish. Yeah, I've had to bring this up ahead of time before. Like, just so you know, the meds I'm on have a double-edged sword here. I'm gonna just you till my body gives out, but I might not come. Considering the way orgasms can be so elusive for women, I thought it would be understandable, but man, some of them really did not handle that well. I usually take sleeping meds for a great night's sleep. Full 8 hours every time. I've found that I tend to not always fall asleep, and when it happens, I get really awful restless legs and either have a terrible, anxious time getting to sleep, or I eventually just have to get up. Because I can't lay there like that anymore. I haven't had a sleep med that does much. Tried a lot, but no effect. Melatonin helps a bit for sleep and cool dreams. Years of 4-6 hours a night and one day on a Saturday. 10-12 throughout the day. A month of going to bed and getting out of bed at the same time. Cutting out tech an hour before, and melatonin an hour before bed. I started to get 8.5 hours of sleep a night. Melatonin should be taken an hour before bed, and at the same time. Melatonin was a small aid, but a sleep schedule was the difference. Weekends, same time, literally every day. Go to bed and wake up at the same time. Dim the lights 2 hours before. Cut the phone out. Dim the TV if you can. I journal sometimes 20 minutes before sleep to empty thoughts. I never wanted to do the weekend early to bed thing, but once I started to get 8.5, I wouldn't change that for anything. My 15.5 hours is more productive and happier. I don't know why, but melatonin makes me freak the fuck out when I'm asleep. I never remember the nightmares the next day or anything, but I know I've had them, and my so says I thrash and swing like I'm possessed. Since she's so much smaller than me, it scared the out of her when it happened. That's actually a common side effect that is aggressively downplayed by the manufacturers. Melatonin definitely causes nightmares if you aren't in the right space to take it. It intensifies your dreams and can make things turn ugly quickly. Also, some people I think it would cause nightmares for no matter what. If you're prone to nightmares, you really need to be cautious with it. I used to have depression, and it caused me the worst nightmares of my life. Now, past the worst of my depression, I'd use it pretty safely, and it helps me to sleep. But yeah, when I was in the wrong frame of mind, it did terrible things to me. Seriously, my record as a teenager was 5 times in a day. Self-love because shy boy. As a man in my mid-40s, I recently surprised myself by managing 5 times in 3 days. Because I've also had times where we tried to go for a second round within 24 hours, and we ended up giving up on me finishing because it simply wasn't happening. Totally remember doing this back in 2017. I was so nervous because the woman was really gorgeous. Managed to fake that I had to piss, went to the bathroom, gave myself a pep talk, pre-jacked it, and then went to town. I've been on them before. You literally can't get up. And honestly, you just stop thinking about altogether. You just don't get turned on anymore. And once you finally do get up, you have this constant half boner, and it's just weird. I am not a doctor, an MD, or even recommending you try what I am about to say. I'm just sharing my own anecdote that several thousand people have experienced similar effects from. I live in a state where psilocybin is. It's not illegal. I had a lot of lingering effects from being on SRIs for a year, even close to 10 years after getting off them. A couple good doses of magic mushrooms was enough to clear all that out, and made a pretty big dent in the depression itself. I gradually stepped up doses, 2 grams, 3 grams, then about 4.5 grams, all spaced out a few weeks apart. My last dose was about 3, and they were potent little suckers that blasted me to hell and back. That one pretty well brought me to better than normal territory, but it was rough. The trouble you run into is that different growers can have different potency, and they affect everyone a little differently. Starting out, I cannot say I'd recommend anyone try more than about 2 grams or so to see how it affects them. 5 is go meet God territory. I was on antipsychotics for a year for moderate to severe hallucinations. The side effects of those are like antidepressant side effects' evil cousin. 20x worse. I felt like a zombie half the days. Abilify and risperidone. I've been off of them since August, and in spite of that, I still have trouble reaching orgasm during. Facking things also made me put on 60 pounds. It's especially frustrating because people seem to interpret that as insulting, because they think you're not into them. Even worse is that I'm 20, so people expect me to be able to just go at it so when I can, I shatter what they were expecting of me, as if my limp dick is my fault. It took me like 2.5 hours the last time I had with someone, and that was without protection. They had a hysterectomy. Dick was sore and felt rawer than ground beef by the end of that. Came to say this, except bupropion. That'll make you horny. Everyone's a bit different. I had weight gain 140 lbs 170 lbs. Inability to climax libido was only slightly reduced, and it made me emotionally numb. You could have shot my best friend in front of me, and I wouldn't have cared. I also couldn't feel any sort of happiness over anything. Basically, my entire emotional range was extremely limited. It also made suicide seem like a very logical decision instead of an emotional impulse. Prozac made me so horny, but I could not come. My ex-husband got so frustrated he just stopped having any interest in. He said there was no point if I couldn't orgasm. Still not sure which part of that entire situation was more frustrating. Switched to bupropion, and while I could orgasm again, I had no desire for it all. If you eat her Pivsi and make her come from it, right? Making her come before penetration is the important part, is what you mean. Don't forget post-play. Some women get off and can keep going, but lots of us women also get the post-orgasm sleepies too. Some of the best I've ever had was when a guy kept fingering and playing with me after he got off. I knew he was tired, but he wanted me to be able to be the one to just cuddle right after and enjoy the bliss after peeing. UTIs suck. Again, it varies. Some men orgasm and stay horny. Some women orgasm and are done. So be selfless and don't think is over just because of the male completion. But I will be pedantic and say isn't done if you're still fingering and getting your partner off. It doesn't start with penetration and end with the male orgasm. Is the whole activity and shouldn't be defined by the penis. To go on a rant, it's why the concept of virginity is so stupid and arbitrary. That's kinda fair. I suppose it ends when both people get off. The concept of virginity is men protected their daughter's virginity BC, that meant they were pure, and that line of logic feels like that women were only valued for their ability to carry a child. I think a big part of that dynamic is that when a young woman had a child out of wedlock, the mother's parents were the ones supporting it, which can be a huge burden on a family. Biology is Luckily, with modern science and technology such as birth control, we aren't as shackled to our biological circumstances as we were for most of humanity's existence. What the hell is wrong with me that after orgasm I am wide awake? And of course, he's sound asleep. Then the awkward staring at the ceiling cause reading Reddit on my phone. The light is rude, and I want to stay and cuddle, but I get so bored. Awake for hours. And yeah, I fly right out of to pee too. Lesson learned there too. Absolutely nothing wrong with you. That's also entirely normal. I'm just saying there's a myth that all women are wide awake after, and all men are exhausted. And it really varies. So getting your female partner off first isn't always the gentlemanly to do. Don't worry, I know plenty of people like you. Not for me. It's nice for about 5 mins. Then it's just kinda like get to the point already. And no, it's not my man. I've always been like this. There's so much more to foreplay than oral. I rather have my whole body explored and made to feel desirable than just get eaten out. All the buildup leads to a quick orgasm for me. Then bang, he can have his guilt-free. I'm always scared to eat Pivsi. I don't know where it been. Take a shower together first. A lot of women are insecure about their scents there. So many fish jokes. And she'll also be more enthusiastic going down on you when you're freshly showered. Showers aren't good for, and straight up miserable with condoms. But they are awesome foreplay. A little soapy back rub, some kissing, and then everyone is happier about their sweat and stench levels. Plus, it's really intimate. Unless you mean she's had before and that grosses you out, in which case, try to get over that. I was talking with my girlfriend last night about various things, and one of her topics was about what makes a partner good in bed. She was definitely of the opinion that finding the clitoris was definitely a major bonus, straight away. Also things like paying attention to foreplay, playing with her boobs, kissing her neck, and pretty much just not being the kind of Dutch nozzle that thinks they're a god for putting their dick inside a vagina. Fellas, your dick isn't that special unless it vibrates at 60 Hz. I've got a bit of a kink for getting women off many times in a row with my fingers, mouth, toys, etc. Suffice to say that she compared me quite favorably to other men in this regard. My penis is undoubtedly not the best, for many reasons I won't get into, but she hasn't ever once complained. Edging or limitations, and good foreplay can really help. My husband is sure to get in a few climaxes for me before we even do PIV. He loves using toys for me to get the engine purring, and if he asks for head, he always makes sure I have a few in the bag before I go down. His medication, injuries makes it hard to finish and keep going respectively. So going for only a minute at a time and having to stop frequently for him during PIV is super normal. Since I'm already at prime though, each run is usually another climax. But the best one is when he manages it with me. I'm not big into receiving head. He's not big on giving it. It all works perfectly. He says toys are like cheat codes, and no guy would complain about a free melee weapon. Doing it more often. If you're going at it every other day, you're going to get better and last longer. However, if your life is more akin to being blindfolded, dropped randomly into a desert during a dry month, and told to find water, well, you're probably not going to last very long when you do find water. Depends on what part of things gets you off. Is it the physical sensation of it, or more of the psychological thought of, it's happening, or the pleasure you're giving your partner? Gotta know the path to get the destination to best know how to sabotage it. Mild numbing gel. Thicker condoms would do in the physical side of things. As for the mental aspect of things, practice edging. Play a sound in your head to condition yourself with a basic Pavlov-style response. When you stop, so when you're in the middle of things, if you feel yourself building up, you can play the sound in your mind, and that feeling. Just slow down. It makes what you're doing about the journey, and not the destination. Slow down is excellent advice. It's just that there are a few easy to follow steps that will help you slow down. First, and probably most important, breathe. If you want to hold off coming, you have to be relaxed, and you can't be relaxed if you're holding your breath. Everyone holds their breath when they're getting close. It's a natural response, but you can hack it simply by focusing on your breathing and keeping it slow and steady. Do not hold your breath. Breathe, nice and easy. Second, and this flows straight from the breathing, do not tense up your pelvic floor muscles. If your pelvic floor muscles stay relaxed, it is physically impossible to come. Those muscles have to be contracting for an orgasm to happen. This takes a little practice, but honestly not very much. Do it on your own first. Start with some Kegel type exercises so you can identify those muscles and understand how to engage them. Once you know how to activate and contract them, you also know how to release and relax them. Try that relaxing movement, together with cool and steady breathing. When you're on your own and getting close, the urge to come drops right off, and you can start up and do it again and again. You may blow at the first attempt or two, but you'll get it pretty quickly. Once you've got the basics in place, you can try it the next time you're having. It works ridiculously well, and I wish I'd known about it earlier in my life, when I often used to finish much sooner than I wanted. The only other tip I have is do not close your eyes when you're trying not to come. It makes it worse, not better. But mainly, breath and relax your muscles. It'll change your life. Honestly, boys should learn it at puberty. I wish I had a whole lot of embarrassment and disappointment could be avoided. Another, even easier way to learn to relax the relevant muscles is to realize that you already know how to do it. You do it every time you take a piss. If you do pretty much that exact same relaxing, you physically cannot come, and the urge recedes. So I guess another point, don't have when you're dying for a leak. But hopefully that doesn't really need pointing out. Hey guys, did you know that in terms of male human and female Pokémon breeding, Vaporeon is the most compatible Pokémon for humans? Not only are they in the field egg group, which is mostly comprised of mammals, Vaporeon are an average of 303 tall and 63.9 pounds. This means they're large enough to be able to handle human dicks, and with their impressive base stats for HP and access to acid armor, you can be rough with one. Due to their mostly water-based biology, there's no doubt in my mind that an aroused Vaporeon would be incredibly wet. So wet that you could easily have with one for hours without getting sore. They can also learn the moves attract, baby doll eyes, captivate, charm, and tail whip, along with not having fur to hide nipples, so it'd be incredibly easy for one to get you in the mood. With their abilities water absorb and hydration, they can easily recover from fatigue with enough water. No other Pokémon comes close to this level of compatibility. Also, fun fact, if you pull out enough, you can make your Vaporeon turn white. Vaporeon is literally built for human dick. Ungodly defense stat, high HP pool, acid armor means it can take cock all day, all shapes and sizes, and still come for more. Some last longer condoms, not all of them work for me. Also, being drunk kinda helps too. And then, the position. Because of the shape of my dick, missionary makes me come really quickly. So I prefer doggy. I also have more control in this position. If I'm about to nut, I'll stop thrusting and just stay fully inside of her, while doing other things. I'll bend over on top of her, bite her shoulders, grab her boobs, rub her clit with my hand, turn her head a bit and kiss her. And then when I calm down, I'll keep going. You can also reduce the speed and the depth so you can try and hold it together. Just stop thrusting and keep kissing her. That always seems to do the trick. It made me last longer about 15 years ago when I last tried one. But it felt wrong, not like morally wrong, like physically wrong. Things were bigger and I was at a point where I had to remove it to release everything. Maybe I had the wrong size. I don't know. But I felt weird that night and had to stop and take it off. Never tried again. Also, it had a little wiggly thing on it that made my dong tickle. I didn't like that either. Things that helped me out back in the day: avoiding caffeine and alcohol leading up to a night together. Maybe a drink to loosen up a little, enjoyed together, as things are getting romantic. But otherwise, being in as relaxed a state as possible works wonders. Doing Kegel exercises can help, but don't do any on a day you think you may be hooking up later. Don't tire the muscle out. Also, one of a number of reasons I advise against rubbing one out in advance. Have some options for romantic lighting in the bedroom. Maybe your overhead lights don't have a dimmer switch, but you could use smaller lamps, and maybe the hallway light. Enough lighting to appreciate the view, importantly, but dim enough to aid in relaxation. If possible, leave some time after eating. You don't want that blood flow still being diverted to digestion. If possible, get aroused slowly. Making out for a while is one of the best things in life, so why rush it? Go first with the exchange of oral. Where things start getting slippery, with nut number 1, is when you get real hard and then lose it slowly. So receiving a particularly skilled blowjob and then doing something else for a while before moving on to intercourse might really limit how long you can last for the first round. And you're not missing out. Your partner gets so worked up while on the receiving end of oral that they want you right then and there. Let them reciprocate for round 2, when you'll appreciate the extra help with recovery. Do not spring it as a surprise on your partner. But benzocaine can be your friend. As an inexperienced lover looking to extend the fun, there are condoms with a small amount on the inside. But don't wear one of these the whole time, or it will numb things enough to interfere with the recovery for round 2. Alternatively, it's the active ingredient in Orajel, so you can dab just a bit, leave it momentarily, then wash it off, or wipe away with a damp cloth. Your target here is beneath and just behind the tip, the zone where you get that tickle sensation that precedes losing control. This also reinforces what I said about not springing this as a surprise on your partner, because why do you have a tube of Orajel? And if you have issues maintaining a full erection due to performance anxiety, don't be afraid to bring that up with your doctor. No, really. Non-physiological ED is medically recognized, so you're not going to be laughed out of the office for talking about issues you may be having, even in your 20s.